In today's show, I'm joined by Andy Kamenetsky of Locked On Lakers about Rajon Rondo potentially rejoining the team, getting the 2020 band back together, and the Lakers off-season as a whole. It's coming up. You're not going to want to miss it. Stay tuned.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to another episode of Locked On NBA. I am your host, Josh Lloyd. I'm going to be joined in a second by the host, or one of the hosts of the Locked On Lakers podcast, Andy Kamenetsky. Before I do that, today's episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. It can be hard with so many makes and models of cars and trucks available at the moment to find the parts that you need. You don't want to go to a local chain auto store where often you'll have to endure intimidating, pointless questioning from the guy behind the counter, just so he can look up on the computer what parts you need. You have a computer, whether in your pocket or at home, and you can access Rock Auto. Why would you choose to spend 30, 50, even 100% more for the same parts for your car when you can do it at a fraction of the cost at rockauto.com? Rockauto.com is a family-owned business been serving do-it-yourselfers online for over 20 years. Brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, new carpet. Rock Auto has everything you will need to help fix your own car. Go and explore their easy-to-use website and find the solution for your auto parts needs. It's easy. Go to rockauto.com right now. And in their How Did You Hear About Us box, write Locked On so that they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. So let's bring him in now. One of the hosts of the Locked On Lakers podcast, Andy Kamenetsky, is here with me. Andy, the Lakers, we haven't spoken on Locked On NBA about much of the Lakers off-season. We'll talk about that in a second, but the latest news appears to be that within the next 24 to 48 hours that Rajon Rondo will be rejoining the Lakers after being bought out from the Memphis Grizzlies, following on with a trend of the off-season in bringing back either players who are 30 plus, maybe 32 plus, and players who contributed in a reserve role for the 2020 title team. Rondo struggled for the Atlanta Hawks last year. He struggled for the Clippers in the playoffs as well, and now he is coming back here, it looks like, to the Lakers. Is there any part of this that is Rob Pelinka, I guess, not clutching at straws, but like hoping that that magic run where Rondo was really good in that stretch in the playoffs, he was bad at other times in the season, and the season before he was pretty poor. Is it him trying to recapture that magic there? Where does he fit in this rotation? Because there is Russell Westbrook. They signed Kendrick Nunn. Is Rondo a emergency type point guard? Is he going to be a big part of this team? What is the actual plan here, do you think?
I don't expect Rajon Rondo to have a major role with this team. When you take a look at the guys who qualify as either ball handlers on this team or backcourt guys, or in certain cases both, you've got LeBron and Russell Westbrook, who are obviously going to get major minutes in terms of guys who run the offense, handle the ball, set up other guys, etc. Kendrick Nunn, I think in terms of what happens on the court and also financially, considering he was the biggest contract that they took on of anybody not named Russell or Westbrook, it feels to me like it would be pretty irresponsible and kind of strange for Rondo's presence to cut into Nunn's minutes. They obviously have committed to Talen Horton-Tucker and believe in his potential, and he's somebody, at least right now, who is much more valuable with the ball in his hands than playing off ball. He actually showed a fair amount of promise, not just driving to the rim as a scorer, but actually starting to facilitate for guys. And for the time being, Kent Bazemore is the best defensive guard that they have, and he's arguably the best two-way role player among backcourt guys, unless Kendrick Nunn takes another step forward, or I guess maybe THT. But the larger point being, there aren't a lot of pressing available minutes, at least on paper, for Rondo. He strikes me as more somebody that would be situational in terms of the way that he's used, whether because guys are unavailable, but I also think maybe he could be somebody that helps settles a game down. Like if things are starting to get a little bit wonky or out of control, you bring in somebody like Rondo who can learn any system in like 15 minutes, assuming there's anything that's demonstratively different than when he was there a couple seasons ago. He's very good at putting guys in the right places. You put him in for about 10 minutes and that's it. And that might be it for a few games. I would be surprised, never say never. I'd be very surprised if he was told that he would have even close to as significant a role as he had in 2020.
To me, he's pretty much coming in to almost fill the Jared Dudley type role, to be the older player who can direct guys from the bench. Hey, get in this position, do this. This is how we're running things. Help work with, I was going to say work with the young guys. Not that there's many young guys on this team, but Horton Tucker and Nunn specifically, those younger ball handlers.
Malik Monk.
Oh, Malik Monk as well. You have to help guide those players, because this Lakers team probably had 12 rotation guys before the Rondo signing, with someone out of a Monk, Bazemore, Allington that probably wasn't going to have to play every night anyway, and adding that extra guy to the mix. But it does bring back Rondo, who had a strong run as a backup point guard in the 2020 title team. Dwight Howard comes back as the backup center again, or most likely the backup center, as he was in 2020. So just bringing those guys back. And you're transitioning into the Dwight Howard situation. Is there any update on Marc Gasol? Because there's some talk now that maybe he said he was coming back, but maybe he doesn't.
I haven't heard anything specific, and it might be one of those things that, there could be a few factors at play. How much of this is the Lakers perhaps looking to move Marc Gasol. I know about a month or so ago, Ramona Shelburne on 710 ESPN had talked in not extremely specific terms, but about a potential deal on the table that would have involved moving Alex Caruso and Marc Gasol, I believe, to the Timberwolves. And it sounded more complicated in actuality than what she described. But the larger takeaway to me was just the idea that Marc Gasol theoretically could have been moved for nothing. It could be a matter of him perhaps looking towards retirement or looking towards ending his career in Spain. It also could be him maybe thinking that his role with this team isn't going to be what he wants or that defined. I don't think he is a terrible fit for the starting lineup as I envision it. And I think he is currently penciled in as the starting center. But I don't think he's a great fit either in terms of the tempo that this team would look to run at. I think they're going to be looking to really stay in transition a lot. That's when the 2020 championship team was at its best. Obviously that's not the wheelhouse of Marc Gasol. I also think that some of the things that he does well, or at least theoretically well, aren't at the same premium this season. When you take into account all the shooters that the Lakers brought in, Marc Gasol's floor spacing doesn't necessarily carry the same weight, especially because he's often a pretty reluctant shooter anyway. Like I don't know how big of a spacing threat he represents when he often passes up shots. Like until he starts shooting with more regularity, if I'm a defense, I will take my chance leaving him at least semi-open or hedging towards Anthony Davis or somebody else, than automatically assuming he's going to put up that shot. And then when you've got LeBron and Russell Westbrook, and to a lesser but I think still tangible degree, Anthony Davis, Marc Gasol's playmaking doesn't have the same urgency to it. And we saw that last season to some extent with Dennis Schroeder in the starting lineup with Marc Gasol. And Dennis Schroeder isn't close to the playmaker that Russell Westbrook is. So, I think there's probably some ambiguity right now on a lot of different fronts in terms of where Marc Gasol exactly fits in with this team.
I think also a part of that would have to be Mark's, not so hidden disappointment at his role being minimized and benched with Andre Drummond coming in last year. He was not happy at all. So I think that there is maybe some posture. It's like the guy's like, I'm not here for this. I didn't like what happened. I'm not coming back for a small role. If you're going to do this again, I'll see you later. And that's going to be something to monitor. But again, the Lakers can always just start Anthony Davis in his best position at center, and then there's no problem there whatsoever. Andy, Locked on Lakers, you'll be covering all of the news, Rondo signing, what happens with Gasol, what else happens with this team over the offseason, 5 days a week. So make sure you are subscribing over there. Thank you for coming on Locked On NBA with me.
Yeah, thanks. Anytime.